Good afternoon, Justice Musli.
Good afternoon, Justice.
In your current position as Associate Justice of the Sandigan Bayan, how do you maintain ethical standards and integrity in your work, especially when under pressure from powerful entities, if any?
Well, consistently, and you understand this and recognize this as well, hopefully, Justice Linda, being part of the judiciary trains you to apply the letter of the law in all instances presented before your table for adjudication. Our experience and my environment with the Sandigan Bayan is collegial in nature, and I treasure that and I relish that environment as well. This gives us opportunity to discuss cases on the merits for applying the rule of law in all instances. So in every instance that presents that itself before us, we constantly and as a default apply the full letter of the law. And that would encapsulate my judicial experience in my court, Your Honor.
Have you ever encountered pressure from powerful entities? And if yes, how did you handle this situation?
I think if we, to my mind, I've yet to really experience pressure coming from a powerful front or anything. The convenience and we work. I think we relish the fact that we work within the ambit of the law, and we restrict ourselves to the application of the law in every instance before on regarding cases pending before us.
In one of your action plans that you submitted, you stated that you intend to upgrade complaints portal of the Ombudsman. Can you share the mechanics of how you will upgrade the same?
I think there's an existing complaints portal right now with the Ombudsman. Only that I think there is much need for this portal to be made accessible. So I think digitalization is key. We are in a computer age. We have a lot of progress in knowing fully well that each citizen now owns a computer, a mobile computer in hand. It's just a matter of digitizing the Supreme Court to be able to accept first complaints from whatever form or substance from our citizenry, who in the ultimate analysis is the client of the Office of the Ombudsman as its champion. You know, we have Supreme Court cases saying that the Office of the Ombudsman is the champion of the people. So we should be able to serve their needs with specificity and effectiveness and efficiency. And one clear way is really to digitize our platform, our systems, to be able to receive those complaints and act on them promptly and fittingly, Your Honor.
You did mention that your predecessor filed only how many % of cases within the 7-year period compared to the previous?
If I may just cite, so I am not quoted incorrectly. In the years, let's just count for the last 7 years, because the last 6 years, Your Honor, because in the 7th year he shared the output and the accomplishment of the previous ombudsman before him. So starting from 2019, he filed 174 informations. In 2020, 80. In 2021, 106. In 2022, 223. In 2023, 162. In 2024, 96. And in 2025, the figures I have here is from just, I think, July. So it's 6 here, but I understand since then it's now grown to 9. So this is compared to 1 year of the previous ombudsman, 2017, it's 2,447. So it's not even, I think, 50% of 1 year alone. So that is where I'm coming from, Your Honor.
But would you have the data on how many cases were filed vis-a-vis the cases, the complaints that were filed and the cases that were successfully prosecuted, or I mean, went into prosecution?
I have no data on specific on the number of cases that I have cited, but my data with the Sandigan Bayan is as far as conviction rates and acquittal rates is concerned, Your Honor. My understanding as currently the conviction rate of the Sandigan Bayan is about 64%. The acquittal rate is about 24%.
I see. How will you address the issue of inordinate delay in resolving ombudsman cases should you be appointed?
My plan is really to follow the letter of the Constitution, directing the Ombudsman to act promptly. So prompt action is the constitutional mandate. So really, to me, it is abominable to see pending cases reaching 8 years, 7 years for preliminary investigations or even fact-finding before the Office of the Ombudsman, considering that the Office of the Ombudsman applies different burdens of evidence. For administrative cases, it is only substantial evidence. For preliminary injunction, it is only probable cause. So, to my mind, this is unacceptable. I think you should follow the Constitution when it commands you to act promptly and inform the complainants of what happened to your complaint. So that is, to me, an area where improvement should take place. And bottom line, Your Honor, if I may add, that when you deal with inordinate delay, you follow your own rules. What rules am I talking about? Even the Ombudsman has laid out in its Administrative Order number 1, time frames and timelines. So you apply strictly the timelines there, and if you violate it, you dismiss it without prejudice to refiling. So there is no discretion that comes into play. Of course, there are exceptional circumstances regarding involving voluminous records, number of respondents, but that should not be the rule. That should be the exception. Thank you, Your Honor.
What role should the ombudsman play in ensuring compliance with procurement laws and preventing ghost projects or anomalous transactions?
Procurement laws. I would suppose if you're talking about the new procurement law, there are, it's very rich in options on how to protect public funds from being utilized inappropriately. But as far as the Office of the Ombudsman is concerned, I think this would be consistent with my desire to put in resident ombudsman to be actively on the guard to return that platform, that tool, I think is indispensable. I am familiar with why it was, I have heard reasons why it was taken out in the first place. I think it's budgetary or it became an ill that they had to suspect as a little rotten and has taken that shape already. But I'm sure those issues can be managed and the best advantage can be procured when you have an active voice or commander inside very key agencies who are frontliners, for example, in healthcare, revenue generation, in agriculture, in very important key agencies. Not all, so you can manage your resources very carefully.
My last question, Justice Musngi. Can you convince us that you are the best candidate for the position of ombudsman?
Best candidate. I'm sure everybody has qualities they offer. All the other candidates, I think, to my belief, have their own advantages and strengths. But what I can offer is my executive experience coupled with my judicial career for almost 10 years in the Sandigan Bayan. I think I can consider this already my core competence. What I believe, likewise, that the Office of the Ombudsman should be energetic, should be fairly independent, and fiercely loyal to its mandate. And and I don't pretend to do it all alone. So I think it will be very important to collaborate and coordinate with other key agencies to fulfill this duty, Your Honor.
So that was my last question. Good luck to you, Justice Musni.
Maraming salamat po.